right? If
Okay.
Right, I've started recording, boys. Go for it.
Oh, okay. Welcome to the OSRS podcast. I am Mint Mad Cow.
What's going on, boys? Rakes as always.
And hello, it's me, Rice Cup. And today, once again, we have the legendary Mr. Matt K, the data master, the league player, the quest doer. And also, you use the HD client, right? That isn't real light. Yeah, he's an advocate for that client. I don't know if that's still around anymore, but you already know who Mr. Matt K is. So he's here to just give us some good news on, this crazy topic that's been stirring the pot these last few weeks. So yeah, really glad to have some amazing insight from Mr. Matt K. But welcome.
Yep.
Thank you for having me.
I think it's also worthy note that obviously, if anybody doesn't know who Matt K is, he was formerly a Jagex moderator. What was your role exactly?
At Jagex moderator.
The Jagex moderator. I started off as I joined in player support. Yes, there used to be a player support back in 2005. And then within 3 months, I joined community management. Then 10 years in community management. Then launched Old School RuneScape. Then became the product manager of Old School RuneScape. And did that for 6 years, I think.
Yeah.
So my journey.
So you're a very good person to speak on these matters, and obviously we're going to be covering the recent survey that came out that there's a lot of outrage about, and one of the topics which I think is going to be more interesting is you've been through cycles of new companies acquiring Jagex through those years, so you're going to be able to give your personal takes on how maybe the J mods are feeling and how that all went. So yeah,
indeed,
brilliant.
How about these tiered memberships, boys? What do you guys think? You gonna get the private server one, bro? Just the pay to win world? It seems pretty good. I don't know.
Do you want to do a little recap for the people that missed it?
I personally have not been paying much attention to RuneScape. Just waiting for some wildy updates. But one of my viewers goes, "You got to make a video on what's going on right now." And I go, Reddit's mad. And so I opened this up. And they're talking about the new tiered memberships. And I thought it was an April's Fool's joke, even though it's not even April. I saw it from Foe's Twitter post. There are 4 different tiered memberships that they wanted to do a survey on.
Oh, there's more. There's more, but he showed 4.
Is there more than 4 tiered?
Oh, yeah.
There's about 28 or so.
Yeah.
Oh, I only saw 4. But the base tier, if we can kind of scroll to the left here, was going to be what, $12? Never mind, $12. This one would give you mobile access. Am I reading that right? And then are we sure that's the first one? Because the first one had ads, right?
It just depends on which sources you looked up, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, some of them were like ads.
Well, the first one was like you could play RuneScape for like $10.99, but you had to watch ads, which ended up making Reddit go crazy with memes. Some of my favorite memes, they had the puzzle with the little McDonald's logo you had to solve, or, I was telling people like you'd be doing Zuck and the flame broiled burger from Burger King would pop up as an ad. So, and then the second tier would be you get mobile access, and then you'd have like 4 characters, which the 4 characters is not bad.
But it would be more pricey. It would be a pricier.
Pricier.
That's the thing. I don't think it was all bad. Like there were actually some things in there that were actually decent proposals, but there were things in there that were just so bad.
I would say a majority was like,
it didn't matter.
Don't mess with this. Yeah, don't mess with this.
Basically,
I can't comprehend RuneScape with ads though. Can you like imagine you just chopping a tree and then like a Viagra ad pops up?
So the thing is. This is something that people may have forgotten, is that old school, well, it wasn't old school, RuneScape 2 used to have ads. Like when you'd log in, there would be ads all around like the top and sometimes the sides. And Matt, do you know why that was removed? Because, that just disappeared at some point. Why was that? And I'm not complaining, I'm just curious, because I'd be surprised if they would like to make less money. Like, why was it removed?
So the ads were served to the website. So I guess it's when it moved from logging in via the website to logging in through a client. It's probably when it changed.
I see. Was that around the time that RuneScape 3 was like forced upon everybody?
I think that was way before.
Yeah.
Right.
I saw it such a long time ago. It's
I would say probably in like even before 2010, like it went away because I was already playing on the client, the RuneScape client, and there was no ads.
That's right.
The original RuneScape client.
You can blame that on the web browser, dude. Everything had ads back then, and then ad block kind of solved a lot of that too.
Yes.
Like you mentioned not having ad block anymore. I mean, some of these beautiful people watching our videos may not have ad block. Thank you, but I think most of them,
the legends, the beasts,
Swiffer through for sure, dude.
But
So,
there was some. You can go. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just say the main thing that is negative about the new membership tiers was mainly the random benefits, the ads, the third tier, right? If we're just going off my mental model, right? I guess there's plenty of them. Was you got advanced customer support, which is hilarious because what is the first tier of customer support? Is that like non-advanced? Is that non-existent? It doesn't.
Yeah, I think
basically when Matt K moved jobs.
I think that was really. I think that's what sent everybody into a frenzy.
That was my biggest one.
As soon as I saw that, and I saw all of the noise online, and I read that part, I was like, "There it is. That's why people were upset." I didn't even need to see the rest of it. It was just that's so obvious. But Jagex know now, that is literally the trigger word. Like if they say that enhanced player support, they're gonna just create chaos.
Well, do you remember that post that they put out on Twitter where they said some MP came and visited the office?
Yeah.
Said about world-class customer support. And it's just like,
I
remember that post. On Twitter. It was funny.
Same thing.
I want to make a point. If we can ask the viewers to comment down below what your experience has been with Jagex support, right? Tell us your stories. People love it too because of big paragraphs are getting ignored, or they were banned for something. Or I remember when you would trade over loot and you get banned for RWT, even though you're just trying to split, and then you just could not get unbanned because the player support was so bad. So down below, give us your real experiences on how you have experienced the support, and do you like it? Maybe you had a good experience. I would guess not. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be a lot of people commenting down below about that.
I think as well, there was one in there. I remember reading it, and it was like every one of the tiers. It was like every month you'd get a bond sent to your bank, and this was just stuff that was just so out of touch with the old school RuneScape community. Like this isn't that isn't old school. Like that's not why we play the game. So, Matt, you're the perfect person to ask this too. So with this survey that went out, obviously not everybody received the survey. I didn't receive it. Like, firstly, who are the people that they even send these out to? Who received these?
These would have been people who've got their marketing message option turned on. So there's two ways of communicating through email, and there's lots of laws in the EU and UK that sort of surround this. If there's two sorts of emails, there's a service email, there's a marketing email. The service email is like your membership's about to run out, or thank you for signing up, that sort of thing. Is a service email where you're actually being told about something that's happened. A marketing email of things such as, hey, come play the game because there's a new update, or here's a survey we want you to fill out. So if you've got them turned off, like most of us, you will not receive this email. And I'd imagine they'd sent this survey out to everybody. They could have cherry-picked people, but I don't think they would have done.
Okay.
I think it's just gone to everybody who's got their marketing emails turned on. But the interesting thing is, just listening to you guys talking about it, particularly you, Mint, people who look at this at the surface level don't really understand what's going on here. Because of course you've picked up, oh my God, what is this? What is this package they've put together? That's absolutely awful. Why would you pay £32.95 for this thing that makes no sense? And this one over here does. These packages are not legitimate packages that I think they would ever create. What they've done is they've used this model which allows you to understand the value of individual things that you want to offer. So someone sat down somewhere, probably in the strategy department, and said, right, okay, we want to understand how we can better monetize the old school players. And that's a conversation they're going to have over and over and over again. So you look at it from a business perspective, they've got, 200,000 people that play RuneScape heavily monetized, and they can't get away with monetizing anymore. They've got 1.2 million people who play RuneScape who are very lightly monetized. So anybody who's thinking about making more money is going to go, right, we need to have more monetize the old school players more. Completely legitimate thought to have. And what someone's done is they sat down and said, right, what are all the things we can do to monetize? Because we know we can't put MTX in the game because that's not a good thing. We understand that, but how else can we monetize them? And someone's come up with this list of things that they think is quite interesting, such as put ads in game, we'll monetize it. Give them bonds and charge them a bit extra for the money. Give them packages where you can buy multiple players, multiple accounts, and all that sort. All the bits that they put in there as potential value add to the subscription that they've already got. And then they put it into this model where if you sort of almost, it's not quite randomized, but if you almost randomize all the different things and put prices on it and ask people to say which ones do you like and you don't like, the responses you get back allow you to work out the value of each individual item, so you can start creating the actual packages that people will want, because people, you'll be able to work out that a second character is actually worth $6.99 a month, so they could give you a joint one for what, $10 plus $6.99, and that's what they tried to do. But of course, when you look at it from a surface level, it just looks absolutely atrocious. I mean, you're absolutely right. Ads in the game, what the fuck? I mean, no one wants that. I mean, customer support thing was just laughable. It's like, why have they not learned from it? And yeah, so that's what's happened. So they're not sitting there legitimately going, here's all the stuff we want to put into the game, and these are the packages we want. That's why you've got like 28 packages to choose from. But it's a completely legitimate scientific way of getting information out of people. What worries me more than actually the packages they came up with is how it got in front of the players in the state that it was. Because I don't doubt that if that had gone in front of any of the community managers for old school, they'd have looked at it and gone, you can't say you can have enhanced support, because if you do that, the community is going to go nuts. You can't say sticking ads in game, because if you do that, the community is going to go nuts. And they would understand this, and I trust that they do. So either this survey has gone out to completely bypass community management, and someone's going, I'm just going to do it, boom, stick it out there. Or what would be more worrying, they put it out to community management who are fed back to say you can't do this, and they've just ignored them and put it out anyway. But that's the more worrying point behind it.
That's where I was confused. Like, how did this even get in front of our eyeballs? Right? Because so this is going to be a bad description, but goodwill is the trust a company has, and it's kind of, you can value it in, money. And RuneScape, I would say, has a lot of goodwill. Right? We're a community-backed game. We're doing really well. Leagues went really well. But when you do something like this, where you want to put ads, like, not that it would come in, but just the thought of putting ads in the lower tier membership destroys that goodwill.
Yeah, indeed.
Absolutely. Like, the value lost, I wonder, one, is there value lost? I think there was. And two, did they even consider what they lost?
Yeah, I mean, that agency of goodwill is so important to RuneScape. It always was when I was there as well, because you make mistakes, you do some things that are stupid, but people will forgive it for you, forgive you for it if they trust it. But the problem is we had the same message come out again afterwards that said, "Oh, sorry, we fucked up." But that seems to happen every 6 months. That, sorry, we fucked up, we'll get better. But I don't see any evidence that this problem's being solved, because it keeps happening again and again and again and again. And
why do you think, Matt? Sorry, why do you think it's happening exactly? Like, obviously they're trying to like remonetize the game and make more money, but like, where do you think that this internal pressure is coming from? Like, do you think it's the new owners of Jagex, or do you think it's like higher ups in the company?
And for those who don't know, Jagex is bought and sold like a company, right? So it was. Yeah. Matt, do you know when the last time it was sold and for how much?
March, was it?
It was 2024 April, I believe.
It was recent. Yeah. Every few years, the game gets traded and owned by someone else.
For a lot more than it was bought, too. Like,
yeah, it does grow.
Yeah.
They're making money.
$1 billion
They're making
sale
good money.
this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess the way to approach this is the way big companies work. So the people who bought it, CVC, they're not a gaming company. They're not EA. They're not Activision. These are a company whose job it is to buy things, to make more money, and then sell it on again after about 5 years or so, and then basically make themselves billions of dollars in the process. Because it's not just about how much they could grow the company and sell it on for. It's also about how much equity they get in their company, so they can borrow money for cheaper, which, when we're talking billions and billions of dollars, this makes huge amounts of money for them. completely different world to how most of us live. So it's different, completely different mentality there. Somebody will buy a company and their focus is on how do we make this company make more money. But they won't go in there to the level of, hey, you've got to do a survey. I see all these people talking on Twitter and on Reddit saying, oh, the new owners told them to do this survey. Fuck, did they? I mean, they won't even think at that level. They'll be sitting there going, right, okay, this is your profit and loss account. This is your statements. This is where the money's coming from. I want that to go up. How do you make that go up? And then what will happen is the CEO of the company will say, right, this is our targets that we have to grow the company by this amount of percentage per year. How are we going to do that? And then the department heads will get together, or the VPs will get together, and they'll have conversations about the best way of doing it, and that'll filter down to the staff. And at some point down that level, probably 3 or 4 levels below the CEO, someone said, hey, we can do a survey to really understand how better to monetize players, and this is how we do it. And that's what happened. So it's not come from CVC, this survey, but they will want the company to make more money because that's what companies do. A company does not exist to do anything but make money.
Yeah,
that is the company's purpose.
I guess when you think about it, like I wouldn't even have a ballpark in my mind, but like if you were to buy Jagex, and I believe the last time it sold, it was like over 900. I think it was around 960 million. Yeah, it's about $1 billion, right? And it's like if you were to buy that company, you know, it's the question is would you make more money by just staying the course as it's going along, growing and so forth, and just chugging along, getting the membership and however the monetization system works, versus just doing a complete 180, MTX and everybody, both communities. It's like, because there's probably way more money, I would imagine, I don't have a ballpark, but I'd imagine there's more money in the reselling of the company versus the amount that you would be able to make in the term that you could potentially kill the game with monetization. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe.
Well,
but
yeah, they have to still have a strategy that they can be like, okay, this is like a very high chance that this is gonna work, right?
Yeah.
So they can't just do anything super reckless either, you know?
Yeah, because I think, like, you know, if you have the fear of a new company coming in and just being like, we're gonna milk this dry, it's definitely just a fear, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Matt can talk about this in a minute, but like, I would imagine that they're gonna get more money. Like, most of the money will be made in the selling of the asset, e.g., the company, versus short term. Let's let everybody buy gold or whatever in the game, whatever MTX they decided to come out with.
Yeah. So I mean, if you spend $1 billion on something, you're not going to fuck it up.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to go out
that's
there
what I was trying to tell
something
people
to make it worse. They will buy when they view it, they will buy it and view it as, here's an asset worth $1 billion. How do we grow it to a value of 1.5 billion? And they will use the expertise in the business to help define that. So they might not even be interested how it actually grows because they trust the CEO of the company to do that. And I will tell you now that Pips will not sit there and go, oh, well, we're just going to make some short-term gains and MTX old school. Because that's not how you grow a company. Because in 5 years' time, it won't be worth 1.5 billion. You might have made a shit ton of money out of it, but it will be a lot smaller. The way you grow it is you look at what other markets can you go into and how do you use that expertise in that business to help and other businesses that are in your portfolio to help mutually grow these different businesses. And I was in a conversation with the people who sold Jagex before they sold it, and they came to me and they said, Matt, you know, if you could do anything to Jagex, what would you do? You know, how would you maximize what Jagex is? And I sort of said to them that if you look at where the industry is going right now, you look at, and this was 2-3 years ago, obviously just before they started trying to sell it. If you look at where the industry is going right now, the industry is moving into a position where content creation, insofar as creating content that's in a game, not necessarily just content of the game, but what's in a game, is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You're seeing it with Fortnite, who released a whole system, a whole computing language to allow people to actually create content in Fortnite. You've got it with Minecraft, you've got it with Roblox, 3 of the biggest games that are out there, and this is why they're successful. And more of the industry is moving towards that as well. So, you know, the metaverse is ticking along quietly in the background, being silent again because everyone has been scared by the phrase, but it's still growing. The industry is getting bigger and bigger. And I sort of said this is the ideal thing for old school, because you think about what the whole concept of old school is. The whole concept of old school is about giving power to the players and allowing them to control what's going on through the polls. And how can you have better engagement and control by players by allowing them to make the content? This is the pinnacle of what old school should be. Having the players, there's millions of really creative people who play the game, creating content for other people to have, and that to me is a celebration of putting the power really in the hands of players. So the synergies are there between the two different things. And so I sort of said this to these guys, and they were like, that makes a huge amount of sense. And this formed part of the selling deal. So when they went off to CVC to sell it, they said, look, okay, here's what the game is. This is how much money it makes and all that other sort of stuff. And this is the industries we want to take it into and the direction we want to take it into, which is why as soon as they sold it, they started recruiting people for this Project Zanaris project, which is what they're currently working on. And talking to some of the people who work there now, that's one of the biggest focus they've got. The company's gone all in on doing this. This feels like it's a major part and why it was valued at $1 billion and why it's driving forward. So that is the way they view it. They don't view it in the macro or the micro level that we look at it at, because we're right at the bottom of the pecking order playing the game. These guys are right at the top,
Yeah.
So wiping their asses with $50 bills.
So a question to something you said a little while back, which was Mod Pip wouldn't go ahead and do something that's short term to make a lot of profit. Yeah. So my question to you is, like, how can you be so sure of that, considering like what has happened in the past? Because old school RuneScape was like a phoenix being rebirthed from basically the exact opposite of what you said, which was when when RuneScape 2 just decided to make it into RuneScape 3 and they didn't listen to anybody. So like, how do you know that with such certainty?
I know the guy. I know he knows the difference between old school and RuneScape 3. He's very much he knows what drives old school. He understands what drives old school. And I never once got pressure from him to put MTX into the game, ever.
Yeah,
I got it from other people in the industry when I was there, in the company when I was there heavily, but never from him. So I was always confident that if worst comes to worst, it would not happen with him. And he knows, he understands, and if he wanted to have done it, he'd have done it by now.
Yeah. Can I add a few things to that? So, like chronologically, it's not even Mod Pip that introduced MTX to RuneScape, the original RuneScape, because he wasn't even the CEO. Remember, MTX came out before R3 was even a thing. It came out in 2009 or 10 or something. So he wasn't even like a CEO back then.
I think he joined as the monetization manager, which a lot of people have picked up on. And his job was to monetize RuneScape 3, but that was his job, not his decision to do it. But that was his job to do it. And I think there was somebody before him as well.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Because it wasn't. We had it before R3. A lot of people don't even remember that. Let's Skill Fortune, right?
Like spin to win.
Like
they still have that too, right?
Yeah, I remember doing it's different now. It's like rebranded, but I remember doing something like While Gothic Sleeps, right? And Tormented Demons would drop the spin tickets, and this is before R3, right? So it's like that game unfortunately was already penetrated by MTX for a very long time. So it was basically kind of like, how do you stop it now? It already invaded the game.
And what happened to that game? It dwindled and died, and then old school RuneScape rebirthed like the phoenix it was, and now our company is worth $1 billion. So there's a lot of value in community, because community accelerates growth, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So we can't just blame it on this one person, because he wasn't even the guy that started it.
Yeah, people always want a singular person or thing to blame, which is just, I think, human nature for the most part. But I think that makes a lot of sense. And I've heard people make an argument as of, people have demanded that Pip resigns. We should get him on the podcast. We should have him on it.
That's the drama side,
I'm not very.
Hey, he's gonna resign.
But what
I'm not familiar with all the JMods. Was Pip the one who pitched this, or was he on the video talking about it? Or
so he's the CEO right now.
He's the CEO.
Yeah. So he's.
So you think he had something to maybe do with this then?
So people have basically connected the dots.
I'm sure he was aware.
Him being on the monetization team.
I wouldn't think he was, to be fair.
No,
really,
he was.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I would imagine that at the end of this, he's quite pissed that he had to come out and put his name to a statement. If I was him, I'd be angry as fuck.
So what you're saying is
he's been there for a while. So why the hell would he ever want this to happen? Right?
Yeah. So
he's
I guess what
all happen.
So what you're implying is though is that like whoever did send it out, they should have vetted. Like they should probably try to get some like people in the Jagex to actually look at it first before they send it out.
Well, that's the
where do we think this happened, dude? Where did this even?
So the survey was done by an external team. So like a company came in to do the survey.
I don't believe that.
That's what it said in the statement.
I know. I don't believe that.
Okay.
Well, Matt, where do you think it came from then? Let's get.
I think it's a simple thing of somebody had learned something new. Here's a new way that you can use to understand something that's difficult to understand, which is your monetization, the cost of something. Understanding the value of something to a person is probably the pinnacle of research. If you understand that, it's amazing. I think somebody learned something new, and they probably learned it from an external agency. So that's where the external agency comes in. But they put the thing together. You've got an internal person who's doing all the video work for it as well. So it's definitely driven internally. And I think they've just pushed it out to, an external person was involved because they gave us the idea to do it. As an excuse to deflect. I don't believe for a second that you could blame an external agency.
If that is the case,
okay, I buy that.
I think
I agree.
The guy, the J-mod in the video, I'm pretty sure I don't recognize him, but the old school team's so large now. But I'm assuming, just based upon what we see in front of us here, that it was probably the RuneScape free side, because, not being funny, like the RuneScape free community is much more willing to participate in this kind of bullshittery because
they're
just
deep in the sauce,
anyways.
bro. Oh, yeah.
So
they're lost.
On the subject of community, Matt, like how important do you think that the pushback that the old school RuneScape community has shown towards this online really plays a part in, deterring this kind of stuff coming into the game? How important is that?
See, now I think you need to flip that on its head and say, what would have happened if the community had done and said nothing?
Yep.
And I think we all know what the result there is. So that's how important it is.
Perfect. And
I just got to say, like, old school RuneScape may be one of the only games that when push comes to shove, we get our way, even if it's not 100% of our way. I've seen games crumble and fall because the people who control the updates or whatever don't budge. They don't care. Maybe they're not really with the community. They're not in co-sync. They're not combined like we are. Like the J mods are so in sync with old school RuneScape.
Yeah,
definitely.
I've seen games like even League of Legends, dude. Have you seen some of the patch updates? The whole Tyler 1, that's his whole shtick, right? He'll just roast the hell out of League of Legends because it's so awful sometimes with some of the patch notes, and that's a huge game. Of course, they're still going. But RuneScape may be one, if not the only game, that where they create memes and pushback, and then we get what we want. Yeah. I think it's really cool.
I think
I think it shows the importance of communication. Right?
Yeah.
Because,
but other games have communication, and they still don't get what they want. Like the Cycle Frontier died. There's a lot of games that have died.
I feel
there's been easy communication. You go on Reddit, and they're like, "Please do this, 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 this." Like another game that I'm thinking of, Dark and Darker. They have done a lot of updates that have been horrible. And then the community will be like, please, for the love of God, no. And they'll go right on back. They'll go right on back.
When I say communication, I mean like when people actually listen too,
No, yes. That's what I'm saying. Like you don't get a lot of that though in this. Like it's starting to become a little more mainstream, which is good because they see that when you listen to the community, your game grows and you make more money. I don't know why that's such a hard. It shouldn't be that hard to know that.
The thing is that if you were to look at video games as a whole, like MMOs are just like, if you're making an MMO in 2025, like you're just
exotic,
you're just a bit silly, like because you're not going to make the same return on your investment, especially in the short term. If you were to go for like a gotcha game or a mobile game or something like that. So the thing with old school RuneScape is that its entire business model is completely different from the majority of games that are out there. And it's a complete anomaly that it works. And I think it is just a testament to how freaking good the game is itself at its core, and the fact that with the old school RuneScape J mods that we have there working now, it has just been more or less, there have been bad ones, but consistently good updates that have made the game better over time. Like, there hasn't been anything that's really came in that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there are some, people point out, that have just been like diabolically bad, that set the game back, right? It's like there's been generally good updates as time's gone on. The game's got better, you know, all of that stuff. So it's a bit of an anomaly in terms of it being a game which is literally successful just based on the fact that it's a good game and it's not highly monetized at this point. Like
there's another anomaly too, man. Like, so before old school RuneScape became a thing, right? It was dead because of RS3 and the trade trust, and then they got RS3 up and the evolution of combat. But then private servers blew up, absolutely exploded. People were making bank running these servers, and a lot of them were sketchy and scummy, and they would hack horrible things. But it was such a great game, right? Old school RuneScape, that people were willing to take that risk to play it. And that is kind of why I think it was like 2006 Scape, which was right before Old School came out, that was blowing up, which was another private server where they took the format and they put it on them just like the exact base game without the updates. Like, whoa, this is blowing up. Let's go ahead and do a survey. And the survey went crazy and they created Old School RuneScape again. So even though it did die, the community without the game itself kept it alive. And the only times you really see that were with like Guns of Duel, right? The Guns of Duel 2, which no one knows about, ruined the game. Private servers are still out. Beautiful. And then you got World of Warcraft, which I don't play World of Warcraft, but yeah, like the vanilla server came back, right? And you got OnlyFans. RuneScape started that meta. You don't see that a lot. That it's such a good game that the community really legit made it so valuable that the company itself said, we got to put this back in, right? RuneScape 3 is over here, but we got to create another server and rebuild this from scratch. This is how big this was. And that's kind of like the base of where RuneScape came out. That's like another anomaly in itself. Like what other game does that?
I often think about it, and I kind of think to myself, is the reason why old school RuneScape has become so popular? Is it because it's just such a good game that we were all so addicted to, and we've got like nostalgia for, especially the majority of us that are younger and it was our childhoods, the fact that it was taken away for like a few years only made us want it even more, you know? Like it's an addiction of sorts. And it's like it was taken away forcibly. Like, you know, parents just grabbed it away. You can't have that anymore. And then a few years later, we got it back, and now we're just like, yes, we got it. We're like Gollum, basically, playing our video game.
That's why I think like goodwill is so important, because if old school RuneScape were to crumble, I guarantee we would just go right back to somebody hosting like the biggest private server, running their own game, and then that would blow up.
Oh,
like that's how good it is.
I'm
sure there's stuff out there right now that's probably big. I don't play them. I would not recommend playing them. They're very dangerous and sketchy. But if RuneScape were to fall, I guarantee something would come up and take its place.
If old school RuneScape just went away overnight, there would be private servers of it in like 20, 30 years time. I'm sure of it. There's going to be those of us that want to play the game, like even when we're old, man, like real old.
Yeah, I think old school RuneScape is as big as we think of it as a game, right? But like, let's look at the community. I think what makes old school RuneScape, a defining part of it is actually the community itself, right? If that makes sense. Like, we're the ones that basically dictate how the game's gonna go, right? Overall, right? Because most of the updates are very much based on what the the overall consensus is for what should be in the game, right? And we just have insane influential power over where the direction of this game is going to go, right? And that's an amazing thing, because obviously a lot of people doubt that like we can't do anything against corporate interests or whatever, right? But we actually do. We actually have insane negotiation power, right? Because without the community, this game actually wouldn't be nearly as successful, right?
Yeah,
like people,
it would just get restarted somewhere else.
Like people look to the community, when it comes to like what's going on in the RuneScape community, right? Even if they don't play this game for years, they always come back and check, because for some reason our community is just so interesting.
Yeah,
to the
It's
outer world,
because
like when the tiered membership came out, Asmon Gold made a video. That's how like it's not even that big of a deal. But then that man made a video,
like
800K views on a survey that wasn't even fully public. That's how big old school RuneScape is. We got one bad survey and we get somebody who goes viral. Like,
we just get viral like crazy.
I think a big part about the community in old school is that, to be totally honest, I think the majority of old school RuneScape players are people that don't like the regular gotcha games with all the MTX and all of the monetization that they have. Like that's
Reddit.
I think that's a big reason, on top of the fact the game is a good game, that a lot of people already play it. Because like, can you imagine if old school RuneScape actually did have a bunch of MTX? Like, imagine if this stuff all came in. Like, a lot of people would just leave the game because people are playing old school because they don't want to play games that have that in already, right? So
yeah, we're like old school players, you know, like not
people quit already, and it's not even like in the game, you know.
I mean, look at the reason why old school exists. Old school doesn't exist because of MTX in RuneScape 3. That was around for a long, long time. That exists because of EAC. So even if MTX was, I'm not saying this is a good thing because I mean I don't think it would be, but even if MTX was to go into RuneScape, people would still play it. It would still be successful.
Yeah, they probably would.
It's EAC which is what broke RuneScape, not MTX.
Yeah, that's successful in terms of money made, but not in terms of concurrent viewership. Just like how RuneScape 3 may be a great game, like when Rice Cup says the Iron Man mode is beautiful because you don't got to do any of that spin to win. But that doesn't make the rest of the game beautiful. Therefore, the players, it's not as high. Like the last time I saw an update on RS3 was like the Daganov Kings. I was like, oh, those look cool. And then I forgot about it, right? When RuneScape comes up an update, everyone talks about it because they're legitimately hyped. You can't carry that kind of value for sure.
What we were talking about at the very beginning about how a company perceives and how a company grows. So if it makes more money with MTX and people still play it as long as you don't put EAC in, it'll be fine. So if it keeps doing that and it's making more and more money every single year and monetization gets heavier and stronger and a few people get pissed off and leave and that sort of thing, from a company point of view, it makes absolute perfect sense to do that. Which then, if we sort of cycle back to Pips, who's the CEO of the company, he's defending the game against that.
Yeah.
So that's why he's on our side, not anything else. Because financially, I mean, I can't see why you wouldn't do it if you just cared about money. But Jagex and RuneScape's bigger than just money. It is a lifestyle.
I think we just have higher standards, you know, like compared to most communities.
I think it's
not that high, you know. Have you seen?
No, I mean like standards in terms of, you know, what we want to see in our game, right? Like what we want to have like in front of us. Right, when we're playing the game,
but
right?
I think
like we don't want no ads, we don't want no MTX promotions in the game.
Are crazy,
I think the point that Matt's trying to make, though, is that realistically, if they added some of that stuff into the game, a lot of people, including us, probably would still play. And I think
content creators would, because that's their bread and butter, and a lot of people would follow. But there'd be a huge outpour of people that would just leave for the next big thing. Because gaming,
I think, would stain the game,
an industry, and I brought this up many other podcasts. Gaming, because people don't think about it, is one of the biggest growing industries. Like every year, over time, like year after year, expands disgustingly. Like it is huge, and no one thinks of it as like an investment or like people are getting rich off gaming. They are. Even the people playing the games are getting rich. Ninja $100 million contract. Like it almost doesn't make sense in our minds like this stuff is happening, but it is. People are going to get scholarships for gaming. Esports is going to be added to the Olympics. There's going to be a lot of things to pick from RuneScape that are not RuneScape that people will just flood right into easily, not even thinking about it, right? Well, we'll just go play this now. All right. I don't want to really pay to AFK longer. That's stupid. Let's go play this or that. Or let's go play the Roblox RuneScape mod, right? I don't know. But people just be playing anything. So there's so much out there.
That is a really good point. On that note, like Matt, what do you think is going to be the next sort of like step for Jagex as a whole on old school and RuneScape 3 in terms of like monetizing the game even more? Like what do you think they're going to do, or what could they do?
I don't think they're going to do anything. I think they're going to make the same mistake again and again and again and again, and you're going to see prices go up because they're not going to find a way to monetize the game which is going to be acceptable. And that's because they're not focusing in the right directions of what they're looking at. I think the game is much more monetizable than it is. When I look at where the value is in the game, the value for players is the different ways of playing the game. So the most fun you have playing the games, you level up your main account, then the leagues will come out, you do a leagues. Dead Man will come out, you play some Dead Man. The new servers will come out, and you'll play on those. And that is the value that you add to the game over and over again. New ways of playing the game, new ways outside of the normal RuneScape sphere of playing the game. And one of my biggest criticisms with Jagex right now is they've got a whole bunch of people who are very good at being creative within the RuneScape sphere, but very few people can look outside of that and go, right, what is the biggest thing what we could do in order to grow this, which is positive for the players and positive for us. And that I don't see anywhere. I think it's very non-creative in that point of view. You look at the updates that are happening right now. The updates are great, very creative, but they're all updates you'd expect. There's a new skill. There's a next new skilling boss, which is no different than the other skilling bosses, just maybe with a different mechanic in it. There's a new scarier boss that moves quicker, faster. You've got to click quicker and be more accurate than the previous one. But there's nothing fundamentally different that's changing anything. Anything new has come from stuff that well, to be frank, I put into the game. So Leagues is a byproduct of Dead Man. The new servers, that's what I suggested to them. I pitched this back to Jagex, 7 years ago now.
Took 7 years? Oh my God.
We've spoken on previous podcasts with you before it was even announced, so that is correct.
It's crazy. Gary's Mod's been doing servers forever. It's like the most obvious thing of all time, and it took them
I could definitely see them like monetizing the game through those private servers that they're making, where it's like you have to
RuneScape with ads.
RuneScape,
that's just a server.
Ad thing's fascinating, okay? Because that could have been such a positive conversation to have, because ads aren't bad in themselves. I mean, you who pay, I don't know what you pay for your monthly membership, $13.99 a month. You don't want ads in the game because you pay $14 a month. Absolutely fair enough. But what if I was to come to you and say, hey, instead of spending $14 a month, how about you spend $5 a month?
It's Netflix. Netflix all over.
Right. They could have for sure worded the tiered membership better. Like instead of $11 in ads, it could have been like $6 in ads, and then you still have the normal price. They could have done it so much better for sure.
Yeah,
and it would have worked.
To be fair, yes, the formatting did suck.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say? I missed it.
Sorry?
Oh no, I missed what you said.
Yeah, I was saying it's a much nicer conversation to have, to say we'll halve the price of your membership, we'll just stick ads in game, because we know that we're going to make more money from ads than half your membership a month.
That's a really good point, actually. So, Matt,
I think it'd be funny too. Oh, sorry, go for it.
Do you know roughly, right? So, like, let's say theoretically, imagine if they just removed membership. You didn't have to pay anything, and they just made it so, all right, you don't have to pay membership anymore, but you are going to get ads, and you're going to get ads around your game. Like, do you think that would bring in the same, more or less than what they are through the membership subscription right now?
Ads would be less if they removed all of it. By far,
right.
By targeting the right people, I think is the right way of doing it. So I think they probably did maths to find out if it was doable or not, and they've got the numbers. I don't, but I do have a way of better monetizing the game, which would upset absolutely everybody. Even though it'll
the cold-blooded business.
Does that have something to do with the blockchain?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There we go.
Imagine.
Oh, don't, Matt. You're gonna get some spicy comments for this.
He's mentioned this before. He's mentioned this.
I'm giving you viewers. That's what it is. This is my freebie to you. Imagine if you could trade gold legitimately. You put it on the blockchain, so it's safe to trade. So every item of gold is its own block on the chain. You then could trade it to anybody else. becomes its own cryptocurrency off the back of that, and you have a real world value that you own that nobody else can take away from you. Not even Jagex can take it away from you because it's on your chain that you own. That gold is yours. You can sell it for real money. You can sell it for other gold. You can sell it for other cryptocurrencies if you want to. But that's yours. But every time you trade it, Jagex take a little piece off the top. Imagine how much gold is traded in game every day. Imagine how much gold is traded real world trading every day, and Jagex just cream the top off that. It'll all be safe. It'll be legitimate. Be a fuck ton of work for Jagex to do, but they will make 3 times the amount of money they're making today if they did that.
Be brilliant. It'd be like the Blockbuster versus Netflix move. You know what I mean? It's like the games and the MMOs that move first, even though it's scary, will take the share of the pie. Whereas if you just kind of wait and not get on the blockchain, you're gonna dry up.
Dude, I honestly
just like Blockbuster.
I honestly think though that would be like so vastly unpopular with the player base. Like I feel like
absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Here's a question for anyone listening right now. Comment down below and just comment the word. Would you prefer survey, so everything in the survey to come in, or blockchain? Oh god.
And then bonds would be tradable as well.
Remember, it's like what could make you the most money isn't necessarily, in the interest of what the community is interested in, right? So it's about finding that middle ground. And I think it is interesting, right? Because like you guys said, if they actually just did their research better in terms of what the survey structure would have been, or like, what the questions were, the conversation could have been very, very different, right?
Well,
so that means there is room to kind of like fiddle around with membership, though, yeah? That could benefit the player base and also make them more money,
not
right?
Like paid service for help. That's crazy, right? That's so stupid.
I mentioned this to players before. Like, for example, if the questions were just like very few, right? Like maybe 5 questions about like legit things. Like, for example, how about cheaper membership? Like it's like half the price, right? And you could only play on the phone, right? I think some people would eat that because there's so many phone exclusive players, right? And they'd probably be happy to buy that.
Funny.
Yeah.
Dude, what about ad man mode? No membership, but every 5 steps, ad, and you're an Iron Man.
Yeah.
And you get
the only reason. Yeah, I feel like the mobile one, exclusive one, is way less controversial because then you don't have to worry about ads, right? Whereas I think there are a lot of mobile only players. I also mentioned something simple like, what if they just ask you a question where like, okay, would you buy for this membership where if you play for 3 accounts, you can, you get membership for all 3 and you get like a 20% cheaper price or something versus just buying it separately, right? I think those are the kind of questions I would actually be like, yo, I'm down for that because, people would do it and it won't affect me in any way, shape or form, right? Or any other player. And it could probably make more money for the investors, right? But maybe not like a crazy amount, but it still be most likely positive money.
That's the thing. So, do like obviously this survey has just been like the whole community is just dunked on this because obviously what it is. But like, do you think that they have actually received, obviously they've received a lot of feedback. Do you think any of that would have been valuable to Jagex? Even though the majority of it would have been like a lot of hate and so forth. But like, do you think they could have picked between that?
The data they've got's corrupted. They can't rely on that.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that would make sense. But yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Because there are genuinely things that I think would be a way to give people monetization, or for them to remonetize the game in a way that would benefit them and us. I think what you were talking about with like the Netflix ad model, like lower membership and so forth, people would probably take that. I'm sure they would.
It just would have to be lower than $10. I mean, that's like literally what the price is now. That's a slap of the face. It would have to be like $5 and then ads. And if that's even
what you pay for
viable.
Netflix over here.
Yeah.
For Netflix,
and
I pay.
They did raise it $1.
Yeah.
I mean, I pay that for Netflix and Disney Plus over here, and I'm all right with having ads because I don't want to pay the £10 a month.
Yeah.
It just had to be reasonable, and what we saw is not reasonable at all. Like,
I just imagine though, like they may not be able to like really take the specific data right from this survey, but I think the sentiment is more so that eventually I could see them, asking kind of these questions again, but not like with these kind of parameters, right? It would just be more simple, obviously without the really silly, inputs like customer service or the premium. Like there was like one where like they would charge you for like plugins or something, and there was one where they would like
that's
charge you
crazy.
for like for like reserving a name or whatever, like things like that. Like they just get just keep it simple.
It kind of like really
the
slapped everyone in the
mentioned.
face, dude, because they're thinking, we're playing this beautiful game, we get to vote on stuff, and then it's like, what, we got to pay for plugins? Where did this come from? Right? It's such a 180 that's really the main problem, right? They could have worded it so much better.
It's just the lack of research.
I think I wonder what would be better for Jagex, because there's a part of me that thinks just getting as far away from doing these as possible right now is probably a good option. But then at the same time, I also think, would it be a bad thing? And it probably would. But like, if the people at Jagex, like the old school team, the people that know the game, the community, etc., put another survey together and actually ask some somewhat reasonable questions, I think they'd have to let like the hate sort of die down a little bit before they do that.
Yeah, but, like, is it still pretty? Is it up there still? I've not checked Reddit.
Man, all you got. This is the thing, right? When we're talking about community feedback, like there are definitely people that will just be incredibly negative. I've played this game since the early 2000s, and since the early 2000s, all I've heard from certain people, the game is dying. It's not going to be around for much longer. And these are just people that just spew out negativity, and it is what it is, which is why I think it's so important that people do pay attention to these things, because sometimes those people have a bit of a point, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's valid, sometimes it's like 80-20. Exactly. So it's one of those, because people are always outraged about something. Like, what's the topic of the day we're going to be upset about? The blockchain and RuneScape, cancel Matt K. But like, at the end of the day, like, you have to be able to read through that. Like, we all made videos on this, and I'm sure we all had comments that were just like, cancel my membership, game's going to be dead by the end of the year, etc., etc. But it's like, it's one of those, people say that and have said that since the early 2000s. They've always said that. But then there are genuine criticisms in there which are well thought out from people that aren't just like really angry in there. Because I bet you on this video, there'll be people that don't even watch the video and they just leave a really bad comment. I can guarantee it because of the subject.
It's going to be 100% good comments. I'll bet you 100%. No hate. They love it all, dude.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of the circle jerkers definitely are the players, or no, not players, but people that used to play, and they always want to make themselves feel better about the fact that they're not playing. So they'll always just go down to the socials whenever something.
I think there's I don't think that's necessarily true, but
well, no, I think there's a big part of it, though. I'm not saying every single one of them is people that don't play.
I don't even think it's a big part, and it's it's a supposition. That I don't necessarily think that's true. I mean, the interesting thing though that I find from this is there are a lot of positives that Jagex can take from this, and I would look at all the discussions that's been happening, and the one thing I would pull out is like, right, this combined membership of buying more than one account. People will like that. People want that.
Yeah.
And everything that people have been saying is like that seems like a no-brainer to do. And what Jagex have to do off the back of this is sit there and say, right, if we were to offer a 2-for-1, so you buy two, you get it cheaper than you would buy two separate ones. How much money do we lose to people who have two accounts? And how many more people are going to sign up for two accounts because it's a bit cheaper? And are we going to make more money from that? And if I was Jagex, that's what I'd be looking at right now.
Exactly. I've been telling people this the whole time, that there's solutions to this, right? Not, I mean, their ideas were bad, but yeah, like what Matt Case said, because I was always saying like, wow, there's like very obvious ones out there. I hear people talk about all the time how like they wish they could play 3 accounts, but paying for 3 accounts separately, with no reduction in cost was not worth it, right? But they said they would if there was like a if it was cheaper, right?
Do you think the profit margin would really be that good though? Right? Like, say, I know a lot of people are paying for membership separately on multiple accounts, and they would definitely bundle it. But would you have more people having more membership that didn't have that beforehand? I wonder, like, I feel like the margin might be low.
When I was there, the average accounts per player was about 1.5.
That's it, really?
That's across the millions of people that log in every month. So it's I mean, if I was to make that decision, I'd want to do more research on it and figure out how many people are paying on different cards, and then sort of get a real understanding of what's the likelihood of you playing on 2 accounts if you get the second one cheaper. If I knew I had to spend, if I was paying full price for a RuneScape account and I knew I could spend half of that to get a second account, I might think, yeah, okay, I'll start on Iron Man, see how that goes.
Yeah, I agree.
Personally, the way I would approach it, I think, is I would do it as a one-off month offer. So I would say for the next month, anybody who's got current membership will be able to buy a second account for half price and see what happens.
I mean, it'd be a good way to test it, but some people don't really feel like dealing with that shit per month basis. Like, oh, I gotta go sign up right now.
Most people do though, because they can see how people pay for membership, and I think it's mainly monthly.
Yeah, I just know so many people that want to play more than one account, but usually it's just it comes down to it's just too expensive,
Yeah.
So,
because imagine
anecdotal.
Somebody's got 3 accounts, but they can only justify membership for one of them a month, right? And they rotate or something like that. Imagine if they could give you effectively, you pay for full membership on 2 of those, but with the price, it's basically like getting the third one for free. Somebody might be able to justify that then, and Jagex are effectively making more money per month, and that person gets to enjoy more of their accounts at the same time. So, yeah there definitely are some. There definitely are some benefits. That's why I was asking, do you think Jagex were able to pull any kind of feedback from this that would have been positive? Because I did read some stuff on Reddit where people were pointing out some of the good stuff. Because there's some things in here that aren't bad. It's just they're just completely overshadowed by the ones that are bad. And
yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would personally like to see them in the future just to, discuss the whole bundle thing, right? Just to talk about that specific type of membership, like tier membership, right? New type of membership, and only that.
Yeah,
because I feel like that would be a very easy, you don't get confusing. Because I feel like with this survey, it was very confusing since they pitched too many things at once, and I feel like some people thought everything was just a price increase, whereas, but in reality, some of it were actually kind of has merit. Some people could see it being positive, whatever. But I feel like it was just too much information all at once, and then it just kind of made the conversation too spread out.
I don't think people even saw the tiers, bro. I think they just saw the enhanced player support, and they lost it, man.
Like a bull, just see red. Yeah.
I think that was zoned in on.
Yeah, I think next time they just gotta focus on that one thing, and that's just the bundle membership question, right? Like, how would you do 2 accounts? How would you do 3 accounts? So
next
on and so
time
forth.
They should have some common sense and not even fucking add some of this shit in there. Like
Exactly.
if they take everything away, all the benefits,
one
I feel like the community been like, all right, maybe.
The thing
let's just focus on the
Matt,
price and how many accounts you're gonna get membership for. That's it.
If you think
easy conversation.
I don't think a survey is going to help them anymore. A survey, you look at how you collect information for business planning, and a survey is the lowest form you can use because it's not accurate, because you're asking people opinions rather than looking at facts. So there's always what people say and what they do are different anyway. You get some sort of guidance, but not huge amount of guidance. So it's not high quality data you're collecting. It is pretty average.
Yeah.
So what you mentioned before about just giving them the a 50% off on their second account would be the way to go to find out.
I mean that seems like the obvious thing for me. Is like they've got some they can draw some hypotheses from what they're talking about here and what they've found out. So now it's the time. How do you test those with the players? And it's giving them chances to do this stuff and seeing what happens. It's exactly how we made free to play work. Because when we were looking at doing free to play, my big concern was, what if we make the game free to play? And this was back in 2014, I think it was.
I remember that. I watched that
free to play, and everybody suddenly decides they want to play free to play. How much money will we lose from doing that? And that was the risk of doing free to play, because it was a different setting. It might have worked in the past, but the industry and the economy was in a different place, so you can't guarantee it's going to work the same way. And the way I approached that was by going, right, I'm going to give a free weekend every weekend, once a month for about 3 months, and see how many people alter their membership in order to take advantage of that free weekend, because that will tell us, the community's sensitivity to price changes. So we did that, and we got so many people from the first one who joined the game, and literally they joined, started playing, and subbed within an hour of starting free to play accounts, and so we just immediately put free to play out. Yeah, this is just a no brainer.
Yeah.
But it was that it was collecting the data on what will actually happen, which made the decision so easy to make. And this is the same thing. They got to find a way of simulating that in the real environment and finding out how people will react to it. And this bundled thing seems like if I was whoever their product manager is now, I'd be very excited about getting that done.
So hypothetically, right? Let's say, I don't know, you were to design something like this, right? Like for next year, like, so you would just do like the simple, second account is half the price or whatever. How long, like, would you run it for? Or like, how long would this promo last?
Well, it depends on the data and the risks behind the data that you're collecting. So if it suggests that if we were to do this, the way you look at it is go, right, okay, if everybody was to do it, you lose this amount of money. If everybody was to do it and nobody was to sign up for it, for example, you lose this amount of money. How big is that in the great percentage of things? It's like 0.01%. It's like, well, that's a risk I'll take. If it's such a tiny amount that you're talking, like, I just need 30 people to sub up and then I've made the money back again, that feels like a risk you'd take. But it all depends on what that risk factor is. Will depend on how long you run it for. Could be for a week, could be weekend, could be for a specific event. A Dead Man event, get your second account half price if you've already got one.
How about leagues?
Perfect.
Right? I think leagues would be like
charge even more for a second account. See how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I think league would be I think leagues would be good because you know why? Now they're doing restriction, region restrictions always, right? So the number one complaint that I see, like viewers or whatever that talk about leagues, like every day, I'll always hear someone talk about this every day when leagues is going, is that they wish they could do everything, but they always have to make another account.
Dude,
or another two accounts. Right.
Bro. You get to play leagues for free,
ads, bro.
but you get bombarded with ads just everywhere. Oh my god!
How about Relic to get rid of ads?
But it's the 5th tier, and you gotta watch a 40-minute Burger King video.
No, bro, that's amazing.
No, but see, this is like the real conversation that will come from this kind of thing, right? Is after all this reaction is over, you actually look at this, right, more with clarity, right? So yeah, I feel like they should totally do something like this in the future, and I think leagues would be a very good one because it would actually make players feel good about the way they approach these kind of things, because like a lot of people want to try different builds and stuff, but like they always can't because they say it's too expensive. Straight up, that's a daily complaint whenever I stream leagues every day. There's always a few people that always mention they wish they could play the other builds.
Yeah.
So,
and they could do promos like around.
The problem with leagues is I'd want this information now. I wouldn't want it in 12 months' time. So next
true.
10 months away. So I'd be looking at how do I find out the information as soon as possible, because this feels like it feels like a no-brainer to me. But
right,
I'd want to be going down this route to understand what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even be angry if they just offer this promo like literally next month, because there is nothing, like there's no other strings attached. It's just simply you get this other account for half price or whatever, right? Like I think people enjoy that. It's like, holy shit, sign me up.
Yeah,
basically, right?
Exactly, and that's. I mean, this is the sort of way they need to approach these things, and hopefully they're thinking about this now. So.
Hopefully,
hopefully, because man,
crazy.
I feel like every time I mention the bundle thing, because like I feel like whenever someone asks me about like this topic, I'm like, bro, there's like easy solutions. Just do the bundle membership, and nobody ever says that it's a bad idea. Everyone's always like, yeah, you're right. This is so true. I'm like and I was like, why are they doing this? It's like so crazy to me.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. What are
crossed.
your guys' faults when the Project Zanaris comes out, the private servers? Like, I'm pretty certain that is going to cost some kind of membership to get into, whether that's like a separate one or like it is. I'm sure it will, or like even a bond to participate. Because
I want to say I disagree 100%, but then when the survey came out, nothing's, maybe I'm fucking
the thing is
wrong here, but
they've taken on an entire team to work on that project. Like a separate team.
Yes, I think the money being made would be to rent out the server so you could host your own. It wouldn't be to buy a membership specifically for that server. Now they could go the EA route and just charge everything. I don't know. I hope not. But when you look at Gary's mod, all these, maybe Fortnite does servers too. It's to rent the server out. Minecraft, that's where they make their money. That's where they get more people. And then if you want to play these servers, you got to pay for membership, which would bring more people in. And then you got the people who don't want to play RuneScape, don't want to play leagues, but they want to play RuneScape in some format. So you'd be like, oh, go play this random server, pay for the membership, and then they get all of that money on top of the normal servers. That's what I think they're going to do. If they do actually charge more, that is going to be a lot of Reddit posts I'm going to have to read, dude.
Yeah.
So you think they're going to drive most of their monetization through just like more players playing the game?
Yeah.
Renting the servers. I mean, like imagine, people make series off this. Like we've already had certain series from Solo Mission and EVscape where they were given a server. Now you have people, content creators, which RuneScape content creators are hungry, dude. They're hungry as hell. They're going to be making all sorts of servers on top of just people have fun. Yeah, and they're going to be renting this stuff out. People are going to be coming back to the game. It's going to be, and same for content creators, for people who just enjoy RuneScape, for people like private servers, for people who don't want to play the main game anymore, people who just want to hang out. That's why I was so confused when I saw this membership bundle. I'm like, you guys got this money cash grab coming up and you're going to pull this?
I get that. I don't know. I think that they might see it as an easy opportunity to, imagine if there was like another bond that was introduced into the game and it was like you've got your old school membership bond and then you've got your private server bond.
Yeah, I think honestly
that'd be such a bad
risky
move
to do that right off the bat. I think like Mint said, the whole goodwill thing. I think when you're offering something like this for the first time ever, right, for this game, I feel like you want to just have
make
people
it free to
out,
begin
right?
with, for sure. Yeah,
you need to have people try that shit out and like just kind
free,
of
but
get as much as you.
Get
like as many people in it, build the hype, and see how the trend goes, right? Long-term trend, right? And then maybe they'll have to ask that hard question, right? If it's not financially stable, they might have to like, just kind of, I don't know, business terms, right? Explain that like they need to charge you or something, right? But like at first, it should definitely be just kind of just free. Let people try it out for a certain amount of time.
What do you think on that subject, Matt?
But it boils down to the thing we spoke about earlier, which was why is the business growing, and why is it worth £1 billion or $1 billion? And if this is part of one of the big reasons why they think it's worth that amount of money, so they're going to monetize it. They won't monetize it straight off the bat because they want people to test it, like you said. But once it's ready for live and it's out of beta, then they will monetize it. Now, the original pitch I put together for it was what you would do was you would rent a server for one bond for 2 weeks. You'd have access to you and 5 of your friends, or you and 4 of your friends, I think 5 people in total, to access that server. If you wanted 10 people to access it, you'd have to pay another bond. If you wanted, if 4 weeks, you'd have to pay 2 bonds as well for 5 people. And it sort of works that way. And that's comparable with what you'd pay to rent a Minecraft server. So it's not that far out of it, and it'll be a proper, safe hosted server, private server for you to play on. Now, the step beyond that, which is where I think it gets really exciting, is
server.
You have a server which is so popular that you've got so many people on it, it's going to cost you a fortune to run. So what if you could charge people a bond to access it? A bond for a month to access your server. Jagex takes half the money, you take half the money for that bond as in real cash. And then you start creating a whole economy and a whole industry around old school RuneScape. And that's when you take old school RuneScape from being just a game to the center of a massive movement within the gaming industry. That to me is the success that you get from this. And this is why the company is worth $1 billion.
That's the Roblox method too, right? If you think about Roblox, it's not one main game. You don't just log on to Roblox, right?
I thought it was one main game.
Not that I've logged in, but there's many servers, right? And every server you join, and there could be somebody who hosts a server, but they go a step further where you can spend their Robux or whatever the hell they have currency wise, and then you can spend it on this customized shop per server. And it's huge. I mean, Roblox has its own stock, publicly traded. That's how big it's a huge game. And that's all they do is just randomly own servers. And some of these servers are so big that I don't know if they're bigger than RuneScape, but they're like massive. They have, like Matt said, their own economies, just one server. RuneScape could be easily doing that with the current player base and how hyped private servers were. I don't know why they haven't been doing this sooner. This would be such.
It could be
the amount of money that
not
could. It will be big.
Listen to me 7 years ago.
It's
they're
stupid, dude.
There's a lot of people that, for the sake of it, there are a lot of people out there that have pushed back on the whole Project Zanaris. Like, there are people that are concerned that people will stop playing the main game. Basically, people are worried that if it is as popular as it could be, then maybe everyone would stop playing the main game, and the main game would no longer exist the way it does now. There are people that say that.
People push back on new haircuts. All right. I mean, there's a new haircut in the Valley Barber Shop. Let's vote no. Like, people are stupid, dude.
Have you been hearing that a lot recently, Mint?
Yeah. When you put 15 hours into a game, oh, dude, why you gotta do me like this? When you put 15 hours into a game every day, you're just like, viewpoint gets so messed up that everything seems like an attack. I don't listen to those people most times. Sometimes they're right, like we said, but obviously this is a winning model. It'll only bring more people into the game. It'll bring more money to the game, which I guess is good. It'll bring more eyes to the game, just like Leagues brings more eyeballs, and that's a private server. Or Deadman mode, when viewership increases, I mean, the amount of subs, solo mission, or Ditter Bitter gets versus the rest of the year, you can create a whole career if you're just doing slightly I'm not saying they're mediocre, they're insane, but if you do slightly mediocre in one of these game modes, you create yourself a little mini career for a couple months. So you really can't.
I think it's safe to say that, the Project Zanaris stuff is going to be a very popular topic going forward, as they reveal more and more information. And I think it's really fascinating because it could go into so many different directions, right? With what it is, right? It's when you say private server, it can mean so many different things, right? Like you said, it could be like just a closet of friends, privately owned server, or like a massive, over 2,000, even maybe bigger than a world, right? In the current game of 2,000 people max, it could be more than that, right? For example,
I kind of wish we had somebody on here right now that could who was totally against Project Zanaris, so we could just hear that side of the argument. So if anybody in the comments,
straight ass say anyone against Project Zanaris, dude,
let us know. I genuinely, I'd love to hear what I'd love to hear what the idea is, because I personally, my opinion on it is that anything which effectively makes the game grow, and e.g. more people are playing the game, whether that's on one server or loads of different servers,
I guess it would be
I
the
personally
brand.
see that as a good thing. Personally, that's how I view it. And I also don't think the game's already so popular based off of the one model of the game that we have. I can't, in my mind, imagine everybody moving away from that. I think there's always going to be a demand for what we have and have always had, because there's something about it which is just so familiar. I think it's always going to exist.
Well, I mean, you'll always respect the flagship game, right? Because Project Zanaris is not really going to be old school RuneScape, right? We can't, when it comes out, it's just not going to be right to call it old school RuneScape, right? It's just fundamentally its own. It could be basically its own community at that point, right? Kind of fairly separated from the old school aspect, right? Because some of the private worlds surely will, some people will will spin it in a very familiar way, right? Where it's like old school RuneScape-esque, but like the idea behind that is like people can do whatever the hell they want, right? So they can fundamentally just create an old school RuneScape that's like RS3 or something, or just like a completely different game, right? A shooter game. We can't call old school, a shooter game with old school RuneScape assets, old school RuneScape, right? So like it's gonna be a very interesting conversation because it's not collectively the same community at that point, right? Anymore. You'll have like the modding community, the Project Zanaris people, and then the old school RuneScape players, right? That's gonna be so.
And if they put a monetary value, like Matt said, behind it, you're gonna see like everything that we have on RuneLite, no monetary backing. It's just people who love the game. When you take people who love the game and you give them some sort of reason that they can start paying rent now, you're gonna see a very big explosion of new ideas, right? That we have not seen before.
Yeah, I guess that'll be the Mint's I guess vision of what's Project Zanaris could be. Is like the whole blockchain thing. I mean, look, I'm not against or for it per se because it's not really old school RuneScape, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're not that involved as creators. Well, yet, right? We could be, I guess, but it'll be like a very different community.
I think there'll be new creators that will pop up just from these Project Xanaris worlds.
Oh god, yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
I'll be one of them, baby.
Yeah, I mean
24/7 only private server.
Yes,
Project Zanaris.
Yeah,
stuff.
it's gonna be great. I mean, like
that's why he stopped PKing.
I'm waiting.
The main game that I can compare this to. I'm a bit of a boomer when it comes to gaming. Like I played Counter-Strike, that was like my gun game from back in the day. And like I remember Counter-Strike Source, I used to play that a ton. And I mean, at that point in time, you had like the traditional Dust 2 map where you run around, kill people, etc. But then there were servers which were like surf maps. I don't know if you guys played Counter-Strike at all, but like I remember being in tournaments for surf maps back in the day, and I can't remember what it was like. There was a server I used to play on it. It was called like Skyworld or something like that. And I remember, I rotted that server, man. I used to be able to do the whole map backwards and like just constantly be like, like it was crazy. And then there was other maps where you could play like, do you ever play Break Floor? If anyone knows what Break Floor is, in the comments, that was the best. It was like the floor was completely destructible, and if you just shot right down, you just die. So it would effectively, you'd be in the map shooting out all the blocks, and then the teammates would spawn on the other side of the wall. Like, it was fun little mini games like that just made Counter-Strike so much more fun. But to this day, I still go back to playing the original maps and just enjoy a good old-fashioned like gun game or whatever. But there's all of these add-ons and these servers that are so creative, that are so fun. To me, it just added to the experience. And I imagine that's what's going to be the case with these servers. That's what I hope the case will be.
Like I said, anyone against it's a hater, and they've been playing too much, and they need a walk. They need a walk. They need some vitamin DK2. All right, they need some water. Okay. If you think that this is going to be anything but insane for the game, you need some fucking water. Every game model that has what we just talked about, like Project Zanaris, is not only just old, but still alive and prospering. That's how insane this model is. And if they didn't have that model, Roblox wouldn't be here. Is Gary's mod still here? Fortnite probably would not be at the top of the throne. I think Call of Duty's doing that shit now too. All of these games are adopting these models, right?
Yeah,
it just makes sense.
I think we could do it insanely crazy in terms of what's possible, right? So
then World of Warcraft's going to do it after us too. I promise you, like a year after, they're going to copy us.
I mean,
Did I ever tell you about the
that's kind of cool
between our CEO and the World of Warcraft CEO?
Oh, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So it's a big meeting that all the sort of the MMO CEOs were at. And our CEO was there, and he went up to the World of Warcraft CEO and he said, "Would you have done World of Warcraft Classic if it wasn't for old school RuneScape?" And the World of Warcraft CEO turned to him and said, "Well, it certainly made our decision a lot easier."
You just knew.
Old school RuneScape drove that entire industry.
Yeah.
For sure. I definitely felt that when they announced the classic servers for a while. I was like,
I felt very smug that day, I must admit.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest thing now, right? With the OnlyFans, I don't follow it, but I see it on Twitter, and I'm like, I've never searched World of Warcraft in my life, why is this popping up on my feed? How popular is this, right? And you have some of our old school content creators like Jimmy doing it.
Yeah,
like,
it's just fueled by massive. Insane amounts of content creators, you know, like massive ones, mid-sized ones, everything.
It is funny because I feel like when RuneScape made old school RuneScape, that was a time when a lot of games just had the approach that we had, which was don't listen to the players, we're the boss, full steam ahead, we know what's best for the game.
A lot of them still
and they're just going to enjoy it. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it is really interesting that happened. But I think the only reason that old school RuneScape happened again was because the game died. Like, it was such a massive downturn. Like, it would have never happened, obviously, if people kept playing RuneScape free. If RuneScape free didn't happen, like, old school RuneScape wouldn't be here today, you know?
Yeah, neither would World of Warcraft Classic. Neither would Lord of the Rings Online Legendary servers. Those just wouldn't exist.
I didn't know that the Lord of the Rings
that decision was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess there's really no right answer, I guess, to, you know, making a successful game, but we definitely took a good approach and made it work. So, and there's still a lot of potential, I guess, with what we started as a community. So,
yeah,
absolutely. Interesting thing though, that the way I look at it is what saved Jagex was EOC. Imagine what Jagex would look like if EOC would have either not a terrible failure or had been all right. It kept the status quo. The game would have kept on dripping down and dripping down and dripping down.
A slow death.
They wouldn't have a second product to keep the game alive, which is what old school RuneScape did. I was in a place with MMG after he left Jagex, and he said to me, he goes, "Matt, you saved Jagex." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "What you did with old school RuneScape, you saved Jagex." And I mean, at the time, I was thinking, well, maybe you shouldn't have spat 40 million quid up the wall on Transformers Universe, and I wouldn't have had to. But anyway, there we go. And when I was talking to one of the other CEO after MMG, he told me that when he took over, there was 10 weeks left of money in the bank account. Jagex was 10 weeks from going bust.
Oh my gosh!
It was crazy time. I felt 10 weeks. I felt it.
That's insane.
Yeah. I didn't know, but I still felt it.
I didn't know at the time either. And I was like,
holy shit!
Well, thank God I didn't know back then, because I would have worried.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
You know, it's crazy. It's like sometimes you take really bad risks, but like they're lucky, right? They also have just the amazing luck that we have such a unified community that all wanted one thing, you know?
So
it's like a game that we can go
make
back
another
to.
Game. They can't make another game. Even, I mean, have you played the new one they've made? There's a beta out for it.
They're making games, dude.
It's like a survival game or something, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's like a survival
game. That whole arm of people. Like, what the?
Well, I mean, I got into the alpha for it. It's very nice and all, but I don't see it ever being successful in its current state.
No.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many out there of those other games, right? It's like a Left 4 Dead kind of game, right?
This is like
it's the same mistake they made in most of the games they've tried to do. It's too late to the ballpark. If they would have released this game 12 months ago, it would have been much more of a success. But they're making a game based on what was successful 12 months ago, which is what happened.
That's true.
Escape Chronicle. That was a beautiful.
Yeah, I remember Chronicle, man.
Absolutely,
people said it was good.
Game, but it was 2 years too late because that entire market was sewn up by Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Gwent tried to get into it for a bit as well, but because it was sewn up by Hearthstone, why would you release that game into it? Which is why a Chronicle never really got released.
Yeah, that was sad. But we still have the Chronicle book in game, so
yeah. Ash wasn't very happy when I put that in game. He thought I was selling out that day.
Yeah, I just hope Zanaris is on time.
I didn't know there was such lore.
Wait, why?
We put it in game because it was to kind of promote Chronicle the game.
The online card game.
The Chronicle in game because you went around. I can't remember. You collected cards or something. You put into the book to give you
teleports.
Yeah.
Yes, still is.
Yeah, Ash was not very happy with me when I made him do that. It was like we're selling out the fucking game.
Yeah,
which is fair.
That's hilarious.
He's not wrong either. So,
I didn't know that was a thing.
Dude, that book is so helpful though. It's got so much utility. It's great.
It's like the cornerstone of early League and Iron Man starts now.
But it's helpful by mistake, not by design.
Yeah. It was more of a promo item for the game. You guys don't. A lot of people don't even remember that they try to promote this online card game that's based on RuneScape called Chronicles. You know, I think it died in like a few months though.
I blacked it out.
Yeah. I mean, we never actually fully released it because it was, like I said, it was just too late to the market to have that game.
So why is it you don't think that they can? Well, obviously they haven't. But what do you think's holding them back from making a new successful game? Do you think there's, because for me, when I think about it, it's like when you think about old school RuneScape, it was made by like two nerds in their mum's basement, the Gower brothers, right? It's like there's something about old school RuneScape which is so real. Like I think that's it. At old school RuneScape's core, you're looking at a game where there's been love and passion that has been poured into this fantasy game, and that still remains to this day. It's just been built upon. Sorry, I've added way too much there. You go for it, Matt.
Fear, I think it's all it is. Fear of getting it wrong. And I think that's what's holding them back, because at the end of the day, it's almost like being paralyzed, because if I get this wrong, then it's another failure. And it's that fear of failing and being, no, it's all right to fail. It's not the worst thing in the world to fail. I think that's what's holding them back more than anything, and it's quite frustrating. I saw it multiple times when I was there. Lack of decisiveness, a lack of seeing something through to the end. So hey, we've got this great game. We think it's going to go really well, but we're going to change it just in case. And we're going to change the game engine we want to put it on, and actually we're going to change direction as well, because it might not be really what we need. The latest newfangled thing has come out to do it, and not being afraid to put a game out and letting it fail, if it is going to fail, because sometimes you get it right and sometimes it's successful. And I think that's the and I guess it boils down to, and I remember having this conversation with MMG last year. I said it's much easier to fail than it is to succeed. Or rather, I should say, it's much less work. If you fail at something, it's less work to continue working than it is to succeed at something. Because when you fail, like, that's it, done. Oh, we could pat ourselves on the back. We failed, but it's, we've learned from it. So yeah, we're all very good. Let's start again. If you succeed, that's when the hard work really begins.
Yeah.
So it's much easier to fail at something than it is to succeed, because succeeding is is where the real work starts, and that might be part of the mentality behind it. We'll accept failure, because failure is a good thing, because if we fail, it means, oh, we've learned from it, we'll start again and we'll keep going, because we're that sort of people. But getting to the success, but succeeding and suddenly realizing, actually, we've got to capitalize on this now. That's when the real hard work begins.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think I got there in the end.
Yeah, no, it does. Definitely does. I feel like it's probably like, there must be so much internal pressure. Like, if you're working for Jagex and it's like you want it to be a success, and then I feel like there's probably a lot of pressure within the company, a lot of opinions on what is successful, what might be successful. And there's probably, there's a lot of money on the line for these people that are having to try and make something which is with the resources of Jagex. And you see it all the time. It's like Riot, it's like they were working on their MMO and they've just completely gone back to the drawing board with it. They've just said, we're going back. Like, we have to readdress this whole thing. And that's a company that is like way bigger than Jagex on a scale that we can't even imagine. And even they can't get it right with the somewhat unlimited resources they have. And it's the same for Amazon with like New World and stuff like that. But yeah, I see.
Are they still going? Do you know if New World's still going?
I think it is.
Yeah, but they put New World out, and I think financially, New World's probably quite a success for them. But you look at companies like Riot, and they put out good games, and they have put out good games.
They put out good everything. I don't think I've seen anything from Riot that's been like,
it's a whole different beast from RuneScape, sadly.
Exactly. Yeah. But you look at RuneScape, you look at Jagex, and they have put out a good game. Yeah. You might claim that old school RuneScape is a second good game, but it's not. It's it's a game from the past. But they've put out one good game in 20 years. That's the difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of them, like, being more profitable and all that stuff. Yeah, I suppose. But
It's
and that's
mad.
why
Just
they're
general.
bring out another game.
It's crazy how
yeah.
one good game can have so much. Like, think about that. One good game has made so many careers for people. Whether you're looking at the people who work at Jagex, whether you're looking at the content creators, e.g., us. It's like one good game, one good concept, one good idea can change the lives of so many. It's just coming up with that one good thing, isn't it?
It's always been that way too. It's just now we're on the internet. We created one good game called soccer, one good game called football. Those blew up. People made careers. We got tournaments, Olympics. Some people throw spears. Can't say really created it, but it's cool to watch. Now we just have a whole new paradigm where we can do it online.
Yeah,
that is the change.
It's not just about careers as well. I mean, the amount of people I've seen who have met their partners online, who've decided to become game designers online, where I've heard stories of people who've had really bad lifetime experiences, and it's RuneScape that helped them get through that. That's more important to me than careers. It's how you change people's lives with a game. And this game is not a game. It's not just a game. It's everything that surrounds the game. It's every experience that people have in games and the impact it has on people's lives. And that's why it's special. That's why it's going after 20 years and Jagex can't make another game. That doesn't matter because it's a part of so many people's lives, which is why it's going to be around for another 20 years.
For sure. Community accelerates everything, dude. Memes, growth, interconnections, careers, eyeballs. That's why we see all these games at the top of the charts. It's community, bro. Like right now, people are in high school and they go to their friend's house and they go play Fortnite. And it sounds so weird because when I was in high school, I'd be playing RuneScape or League of Legends or Mario Smash Bros. Now that's a whole different genre. It's like a whole thing. Oh, let's go get some Fortnite dubs. That's like a mainstream thing nowadays, right? It's a community. It's how they build it. And then it just grows out from there. It's the best way to grow a game. Community.
Absolutely.
Just build on top of that.
It's community. Oh, that's the statement.
Yeah.
So here's
I guess.
I was going to go on another tangent, mate. So if you've got something to add, you go for it.
I think that we may have kind of changed our conversation a bit since the original, right? But I think to kind of circle back on everything we've said, because I think for a lot of us as just as players, right? We genuinely just care about this one game, right? So we may not always, be on the same page when it comes to like, survival of this company, right? Because sometimes like how do I put this, right? Like think about this, right? From a business side, if they actually have another good game, Project Zanaris or whatever, right? Or they can make more money, then obviously this game can last longer too, right? Because then financially they're more stable, right? They have more diversity and all that, right? But then for us as players, sometimes we don't have time to think about these things, right? We just think like anytime money is involved, it's like shit, that's bad. I don't, what I mean? Just stop, right? Full stop. But I guess it's important to understand that we need to find that balance sometimes, We want to keep playing this one game, but sometimes we have to also kind of like think business with the corporates, and the investors.
We just have to be mature enough to realize like what Jagex is. It's a company. It's a business. They are trying to make money at the end of the day, but also not ruin our lives at the same time. And you're totally right. They do need to find a balance there that's not too greedy, and we need to be understanding enough, but not too much. We don't want to take the whole RuneScape free approach to this, but there's definitely a balance there.
Yeah, we need some good conversations, going forward. And I mean, I feel like compared to a lot of games like Mint said, we definitely have one of the best feedback loops, I guess, right?
I don't know a game that has better feedback. Like I said, when I talk about Dark and Darker, they did one update where they just took away weapon rarity, which is big for that game, and everything was kind of like the same, and people hated that shit. And it was the co-creator's dream to build the game that way. And they said, oh, shit. And they reverted it, right? So that's rare. That's the only, like, Dark and Darker is the only game that listens like old school RuneScape does in a way. There's not many games that do. I don't know if you guys have examples of video games that listen to the community, but I have
once in a while. Once in a while. But I feel like RuneScape is very much like immediate. It's almost like an immediate, like you get something, right? The moment you start up that conversation.
It's because
and that's amazing.
The people
that's
that
really
work
amazing.
on the game are engaged with the community and they play the game. So they get it instantly. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. Like, when all of this survey came out, like, this would have probably just been so out of left field for most, if not all, of the JMods. Being like, what? Like, they'd have probably seen it too and be like, oh my god, who posted this? Can you imagine the conversations that were happening in the office? They're probably like, who the fuck's getting fired, man? Who did this?
Was really the perfect tea.
What was really interesting was I saw a comment by a JMod in a Twitch chat. And it said, nobody likes having to deal with things like this. And I was like, they did not know what was going on.
Yeah.
They said, fuck!
Somewhere.
Yeah.
I guess they woke up and said, why are we getting so much hate today? Oh, no!
Yeah.
Like whoever actually like uploaded this survey though, they must have had an insane week for themselves.
Everyone's just looking at them at the office because they just know. They're just like, come on, man.
Well, do you think like Mod Jed like snuck in with like a fake mustache and top hat? And
it wasn't Mod Jed.
Jed's revenge.
We just don't know. We just don't know who was the main guy.
It doesn't matter. Really.
It doesn't matter.
We don't want to point fingers.
Just imagine whoever it is.
Yeah.
It's just they're just like everyone's looking at them like, is that the guy? He's the guy.
Whoever was the guy responsible for it, he was doing what he thought was right, and he just didn't have the knowledge that other people do, and that's fine. But he was like, yeah, this is the right thing to do. Because it was the right thing to do from his perspective on how the game works. The issue you've got so many different departments, so many people, that you're going to be in situations where some people just don't understand the intricacies of old school RuneScape and community, which is nuts half the time, but not nuts the other half of the time.
I feel like if this highlighted anything to me, I think that whenever like a survey like this goes out, like it should probably be ran through some of the teams, like the old school team and so forth.
Absolutely,
absolutely should have gone through community management, and that's what I said at the very beginning.
Yeah,
that didn't happen.
I agree. Yeah, because like at first I just assumed it was just the investor side that was trying to push for this, but I could also see how somebody, certain staffs in the actual Jagex side that they also have to think about the money aspect, right? There's like the kind of like the intermediary vibes, right? Like parts of that, that side has to also think about the profit aspect, right?
That's what they're paid to do. That is their job. How do you turn this game into more money?
Right.
That is what they're paid to do, and it's kind of like, well, they got to kind of do their job. You can't not let them do it.
Yeah, understandable. But this definitely brings a lot more clarity, and it hits a lot of the things that I was thinking about. Some assumptions I made wrong. But I think at the end of the day, what is true, what I still believe is that there was a good like conversation and solutions, to these kind of topics, right? Like especially with the bundle memberships, that is really the right way forward with that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of excited and hope that they, take that approach.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a great thing. The biggest win for me though is just to see the community react the way they did, and to be very forthright in their statements that they were like, "This is not acceptable."
Yeah,
and that to me was like, this is what keeps the game pure. And it's so easy in today's environment and today's society to be apathetic about things that don't immediately affect you. And we see it all over the time in sort of modern politics and what have you. That apathy creates problems. It just doesn't here.
Yeah.
Because as soon as something like this happens, I was so pleased to see people get outraged about this. And I was like, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. I mean, I knew there's nothing to be outraged about because I immediately understood what was happening and how it got to where it was. But it's like I said earlier, if people had not been outraged about it, what would be happening today? What would they be thinking?
They'd be trying.
These are all right.
Yep,
we'll start doing these then.
More.
They'd be fast tracking that in.
Yeah. Yeah, it would give them the wrong vibe, give them the wrong message, you know?
Yeah. That's it. Like, at the end of the day, you know, I made a video about it, and I said in that video,
we all did.
yeah, it's like if nobody made any noise about this and people were just passive, you can bet a lot of it would have been coming into the game at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are the chances that RuneScape doesn't make noise? They make noise on every update, no matter how small it is, dude. So I'm not surprised.
But this is like, you know, this is like a unprecedented level, I think, in a long time. Right? This
this is huge.
This was very serious, you know, compared to the usual, right?
This kind of
where they're just like complaining about nothing. Now it's like, okay, now complain. All right.
This reminded me of when they were talking about, well, when they removed the wilderness, man. Like, there was a lot of upheaval with that as well, except from it didn't matter.
Oh, they would love it today, though.
It was gone.
Let's remove that whole thing, dude.
I think it's important to once in a while make it very clear that we have certain values, right? About how we want the game to run. So,
absolutely.
Keep them on their toes.
Yeah. It's kind of like a necessary cycle.
It's a necessary reminder.
Yeah, for sure.
Basically, what I'm saying is that the RuneScape community did me proud that day.
Yeah,
man,
definitely. Right, here's a fun one.
So good, man.
Here's a fun one for you, Matt. So, hypothetically, if you were the CEO today and you were walking into Jagex, what day is it today? It's Friday. If you were going in on Monday and you were the CEO, what are some things that you would like to implement into the game? Changes and such.
Oh, fucking hell.
Blockchain.
Oh, fucking hell.
Day one. Day one on blockchain.
Yo, keep that shit in Zanaris, man.
I'll be signing executive orders to...
Let's go.
What would I do?
You'd have to bring back. You'd have to bring back those bloody live streams. I love when I think of you. I always think. Dude, I always think about Matt K spawning Armadale next to a fucking fence and killing half of the people watching.
Like, yeah, look, not to fanboy, man. You know, Matt K was one of the reasons why I watched those streams. I don't really watch RuneScape streams nowadays. You know, I just don't think they're particularly. Maybe I'm just bored. I don't know. But I used to.
You'd have to bring back those unfiltered live streams. They were so good.
They're brilliant. Yeah. Those were the bomb back in the day. Right, 3 things I'd want to tackle immediately. First one would be player support. Now I have heard that the budget for player support has increased. I was chatting to somebody who works there the other day. And they were saying that the budget for player support has increased despite all the budgets being cut in most other departments. So that's positive. I would drop that fucking bot that they've got on there right now. Have you seen that image? Oh, that's just
where someone's like, I've been hacked. And he goes, great.
Please don't use the word great.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
So, I mean, they've got the data already in their systems to train the bot. So why don't they just pump in old data into it so it doesn't do fucking things like that? Anyway, I would immediately have a task force to hit player support. I don't care about RS3, so yeah, I wouldn't think about that. I would look at a task force to attack PvP and try and solve the underlying problems of PvP to help make that grow and become a really vibrant part of the game. And so player support, which includes anti-botting, tool support for anti-bots, because that's the biggest problem they've got. I mean, I was chatting to somebody who works there about a month ago, and they were saying that the anti-bot systems now are just not fit for purpose. They just don't work anymore. So it's like,
the bot situation is pretty wild. It has been for a long time.
It's always an arms race, man. Always. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is Jagex. It feels like Jagex are giving up on the arms race, which is why it's not working anymore. So we've got PvP, we've got player support. Yeah, community engagement from old school. I would put more effort into bringing that back to the grassroots of what players are. I think that relationship between Jagex and community within old school, I think, is separated a long way.
Yeah,
there just isn't that figurehead. There isn't that connection, that real connection, isn't there anymore.
You were like the spokesperson, you know, when you were around, like with the live streams and stuff.
So I would take responsibility for stuff and say things and make them happen.
But you always managed to quell the controversy, like, or let people.
people. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It's like, right.
Yeah, and you already know.
It would be nice just to have that, like, sort of, like you were saying, like the authentic, like just a JMod on like a webcam in the game, sort of talking to the community. I think that would be nice, because to be fair, like I did recently see that I think Aiza and Sween started doing like a podcast style where they're interviewing certain JMods. I think that's great. I think that's really nice. But I do think as well that it would be nice to have more of a also less production, just more sort of authentic sort of chat with the community as well alongside
sit down and chat.
I think that would they'd complement each other. I think that would work really well.
Yeah, I mean, I found that these things were super important because it helped people know that we were listening. The problem with the podcast is that it's sort of pre-arranged, pre-designed, and doesn't necessarily give that impression that you're actually listening to what people are wanting to talk about. And if you don't cover the most modern things or the most up-to-date topics, then it's like you're kind of ignoring it. But I haven't, to be fair, I haven't heard their podcast, so it might not be doing that at all. It might be the best thing ever, and you know, I hope it is.
It's just nice to see the JMods in flesh, and also getting to know there's so many JMods. So
you're talking about a JMod only fans, then, is what you're after?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I see where we're going here.
Only mods. No, some shit.
Mod Ash in his mug.
I do think though, like, you know, I've seen some of like the videos that say World of Warcraft Blizzard they develop whenever there's like new stuff that comes out, and it just feels so corporate and just so like artificial. It doesn't feel real at all. And then when I compare that to like the early days of old school, and it was like you killing half of the level 3s that are stood there watching, it's just like, you know, that's a funny example, but it's very like authentic and real, and I feel like it really let the players grow to trust the team so much versus it being almost like a scripted thing, you know.
I was having this conversation today, actually. I was doing some consultancy work for a marketing game marketing thing today. And one of the things I put in there was like, you know, you need that figurehead to grow that trust, because once you've got trust in a person, that trust sort of leaks through to, you know, the product itself and the company, because you trust the person. And, you know, I like to think I'm a nice guy, and, you know, people sort of get on with me, and, you know, I'm good at talking to people and being honest and open. And I think that makes it's such a big difference.
For sure. It was a different vibe that we don't have. That we definitely don't have that particular vibe. It's hard to explain what, you know, entail like the benefits per se, but it definitely gave that sense of intimacy, you know, of trust, for sure. Especially when it came to like controversial questions, you know, or like initiatives, for sure. Like, I remember you were talking about bonds, right? I don't know. Remember that one time? It was like many years ago. Like, bonds didn't come out in old school RuneScape like immediately, right? It was something that like led up. It was kind of like a let up to that conversation. And I remember, you know, you were the guy that was talking about. It's like, here's the deal, you know, like you were. But like, but you said it, and we understood. Like, okay, sorry.
I remember that so very well, because I like to look at that live stream in itself probably made the company £500 million. That's how high pressured that live stream was. Because if I had not managed to convince you to vote for bonds, and bonds hadn't gone into the game, that Jagex would have lost so much money off the back of that. So that was super
for sure. I felt the stakes, you know.
Matt, what do you
in
think,
that podcast, watching that podcast?
What do you think personally was the key to the success from that live stream for effectively convincing the players that it wasn't a bad thing?
It was honesty. You know, I did a huge amount of work in the background. So I did all the work and all the graphs that showed, you know, what was likely to happen. And I used sort of previous data from RuneScape and or as much as I could to make sure that I was 100% confident that what I was saying was what I honestly believed. So if I was going to try and sell something that I didn't believe, then it would have come through. And, you know, I'm terrible at lying. I can only tell the truth, and it's So that
was a good strength. It was a good strength in this case.
That's what I tried to get into there, and obviously it worked. So that's good. I mean, I've I've never, I say never lied, but never knowingly tried to what's the right word, to trick people into doing
Manipulate,
something.
yeah.
Wants to manipulate.
Or deceive.
I've always tried to be open and honest, and it makes some people very uncomfortable. In fact, when you're honest about things.
Yeah, no, I felt the honesty for sure. I mean, I was biased. I knew that like bonds were good for the game, but like it's it was during a time where we still were very moderate about what should come into the game, right? It was like a very early still years of old school RuneScape. So
well, I think wasn't that the last like extra form of monetization that came into old school RuneScape?
Yeah.
Like I think it was the only thing other than membership.
Yeah,
to be honest.
That's it. Yeah, there's been nothing different other than prices go up, right?
That's because you didn't realize the monetization we were putting into the game. And this is why monetization done right works, because you don't realize you're being monetized. Deadman mode was a monetization thing. You had to have a second account for it.
Yeah.
That was it. Same with leagues as well. You got to have a second account. Well, you don't actually for leagues, do you? You can do the same account, but most people sign up for a secondary account for leagues as well. And this is why they're so popular. This is why it works, because it's a way of monetizing you by giving you a value thing that you will pay for. And it is that whole thing about value versus cost. And you immediately look at things like Deadman mode. Yes, it's worth having a second account for that. Fuck, I'm doing that.
Yeah, the RuneScape culture is very tied to having multiple accounts nowadays. It's just every year people start realizing like in order to maximize their fun in the game, it's actually better to have multiple accounts. With different aims or whatever.
Exactly. And monetization is not a bad word, but doing it well is when you realize you're not being monetized. And that's where things such as the Zanaris servers as well. People will happily accept pay money to get access to these servers, and which means monetization is not even on your minds, because it's something you immediately see the value for, and you're like, yes, I'll pay for that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. And that is what good monetization is. Bad monetization is where you're sitting there going, oh, I don't know about this.
Yeah, that's where you're clicking the Squeal of Fortune, trying to get that free 50 mil.
Exactly.
Every day.
Best monetization is when you don't even realize you're being monetized. And you guys all got monetized with Deadman mode, or with leagues as well, and you didn't even notice it. So
I did play a second account, so
yeah, there you go. It worked a treat. But it's again that is purely beneficial for everybody involved, because you're getting what you want. Jagex gets more money from doing something cool. Everyone's happy because you're getting value from this thing that you're putting together.
Exactly. I think that's what I was trying to get people to understand, is that there's ways to do this where both sides can get something good, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's important.
And it's understanding players, understanding how things work. And once you understand your user base and you're able to say, we know what they want, we know what they find valuable, then monetization becomes easy.
Yeah.
But
for sure,
it's when you get the people who don't understand that, and they start saying, and I had this all the time when I was at Jagex, was like, right, okay, you've got 2 million players every month. They on average they pay you £7.50 a month or something. I can't remember what it was. How do you increase that £7.50 to £8? And once you get sort of those conversations, you're like, well, you got to force something in, and that doesn't work. And I spent my last probably 12 months at Jagex putting together stuff to convince people not to monetize the game. And I think that's ultimately why I don't work there anymore as well. So that's life.
Do you, Matt, this is a bit of a side tangent, but it's related. Do you think that there is a bit of a conflict of interest with Jagex fighting against the bots, considering they're effectively annihilating income, like by getting rid of them?
Oh God, yeah, of course there is. I mean, if you want to make more money, you don't ban the bots. Simple as that. And it's happened in the past as well, where there's been mandates. You can only ban so many bots a month, because otherwise we lose too much revenue. And you got to think of the bigger picture in these cases, where if Jagex were to lose revenue and they start making less money there'll be less investment in the game. Therefore, you get less cool stuff made. So it's kind of like it's not straightforward of we should allow bots to happen or not allow bots to happen. It's a much bigger picture than that.
Yeah.
I'm always dubious about whether bots are bad anyway. And sort of the way I look at it is, what would happen if you banned all bots tomorrow? All gone, never coming back ever again. All bots are gone tomorrow. What would happen? Now, the economy would go somewhere. I mean, I'm not entirely sure where, but it would go haywire. But the thing that to me seems quite obvious is that a lot of the boring stuff that that you have to do to level your account up, you would have to do yourself. So things such as, I don't know, collecting flax or doing low-level skilling or getting iron bars or buying stuff from the Grand Exchange to allow you to get to the gameplay you want to play would suddenly become much harder because the resources wouldn't be available. So you're going to have to do more of this yourself. So that time from you creating an account or you being in the position you want to get to the position you want to be in to do the content that you want to do is going to be longer. So for most players, it's actually increasing the amount of stuff they don't actually want to do to get to the core gameplay that they want to get to. And that to me is kind of like, that's the gap that bots fill. And a bot will come in, they will get all the resources gathered, they'll set it all off, and then you will be able to go and play the content you want to play. That's the big picture of bots.
Yeah. I think it would have such an interesting effect on the economy in the game, because like I feel like the people that are already mega rich would just be like, they would just boom. Like it would be incredible.
It would. Gold prices would go up. Item prices would go up.
Yeah.
Supplies would go up.
I couldn't. I'm not like into this. I'm not an I don't know,
economics guy. But...
so I don't know, but I can't see it going down. Like, I don't think that things would go down, considering that everything would be more difficult to get.
So imagine if you want a boss, you got to buy potions. Those potions would go up. So therefore, bossing would be more expensive. Therefore, the items from bossing would be more expensive. And items to make the potions would be more expensive. The sharks would be more expensive.
Man.
The supplies, everything.
Imagine if
everything would just
was
go
100 gold again. Can you imagine those days?
Can you imagine what dragon bones would be at? Like 8K each, 8 to 10K. Yeah, I remember when the bots got absolutely banned, dragon bones went from 2K to 4.5. I don't know where they're at now, but green dragon bots were getting wiped, and you would just see it in the prices.
Yeah.
And that went for like a couple weeks.
I think you can make the argument there'd be a lot of people that would be totally in favor of all the bots going, because like if you could just do simple PVM like kill Zulrah, like you're gonna be printing money. Like it doesn't really matter what you're doing. If you're PVMing, you're just gonna be making bank.
But then, the way the economy works is if all bots go and you're making lots of money, that money will reduce in value. So you're not going to be able to buy anything more than you could buy in the past because things will just get more expensive.
Inflation.
So there is no benefit to banning bots, really. There's this. What's happened is Jagex have gone out for the last 20 years, and obviously I was part of this as well, and said bots are bad.
Well, okay, but I think there's one. I think there's one point to talk back about that is because nowadays there are bots that also PVM. So
those are terrifying.
So you could argue that per se, yes, the materials, it is affected in a bad way. But then if you let those bots run rampant, then the items that from the content you actually want to do, they also have very little value too. So I feel like. I feel like obviously theoretically, right? This is more like a realistic thing. Is that like, I think there still needs to be some control, a fair amount where you can't, where like, yes, you're not going to eliminate all the bots, but you do have to eliminate enough of it at any given time that you can bring a balance, right? But realistically, it's like it's just a balancing thing, right? Because it's not always just bots extracting resources. Now it's bots potentially doing raids. Obviously those are harder to make, I assume, but but like, there's some for sure. It's just like, obviously it's much harder to make those bots than someone just fucking mining a rock or something, right? Like a bot mining a rock.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So here's an interesting thing, right? The economy isn't driven by fact. The economy is not, you do not get to see how many of an item are up for sale. you do not get to understand the supply and demand side of things. It's driven by perception. So you think something's worth more, I will make it worth more. It's too slow to be driven by fact. So what if you were just banning bots that were visible? So you just think there are less bots. Doesn't necessarily mean there has to be less bots. So you just go through the high scores, take out the bots out of that. If you see a bot,
that's
ban them. You just turn them invisible so nobody can see them ever. For example.
God, imagine if that's already happened and we're just surrounded by like a sea of bots around us.
That's what we did originally with bots. When we
really?
This is dirty, but it's the bigger. Again, think of the bigger picture here. Whereas if there's less people playing the game and the game's making less money, you get less support. You won't be able to recruit the people you need to grow the game. But right at the very beginning of old school, we had no real bot support anyway. But we could sort of understand who was probably bots, but we couldn't, be 100% sure most of the time. So we came up with a system called Bot Worlds. I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, they used to do live streams and stuff.
Yeah. So what the public pitch we put out there was, we'll move people we think into who are bots into Bot Worlds so we can monitor them more closely. And that was all a lie. And it was a lie that I created. So I'll completely hold my hands up for this. What it was is we're moving people into bot world so that people wouldn't see so many bots. So we'd identify somebody who's probably a bot, and then we would just automatically move them into a bot world. We didn't want to ban the bots, or I didn't want to ban the bots, because the risk that I had was if revenue went down too much, then there was a risk that my bosses would go, "Oh, right, well, then you can't employ anybody else. We're going to start moving resources off old school to make the game to move them onto RuneScape 3."
Yeah, it was still very small, relatively speaking, back then.
That's quite interesting.
Player base wise, yeah, it was.
And that to me was the bigger picture, which was like, if we want this game to succeed, we're going to have to play with dirty tricks like this in order to keep the game big and growing. Because I believed in the game and the company didn't. Jagex didn't believe in it. They expected it to fail in 6 months. And I think they were somewhat embarrassed that, it's now the biggest game. And it probably took them a good 2-3 years to accept it as being, actually, this is something we need to invest in more. I used to have to fight for everything to get,
get a new chair for the office.
Yeah, I felt that, man. It was just like 5 of you guys for a while, for like the first 2 years or something.
I remember going to Jagex when it was a small team, and it was just like a little corner in like Jagex is massive by this, like floors and floors.
Yeah,
and there's canteens in there. There's like coffee station and all of them. And in the middle there's like a theater where they like showcase. It's awesome in there.
I tell you what, that theater, right? Before it was a theater, it was a esports room, so it had banks of computers and lighting systems and what have you, and nobody ever used it for anything. So I held my kids' 14th birthday party in that room. We invited on a Saturday. We invited all their friends down there, and they had an esports party, and it was like I was like cool dad for the day.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Wow. Damn.
Yeah, that's very interesting for sure. Interesting little, dirty secret, but sort of the survival of the game.
Indeed, you've got to think of the bigger picture, and sometimes you've got to do dirty things to take.
So, what is there? I don't even know if you know, but how are by the higher ups, the people whose job it is to obviously make money and so forth? What is their perception? Like, how do they view the bots in the game? Because in my head, I feel like I would probably view it as just like, it's just a consistent income stream. It'd be like the bread and butter, and then the players on top are almost like an added bonus. Because I don't know, I feel like there's quite a few of them, right? And it's just a consistent, reoccurring revenue every single month.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess the perspective is that what they're going to say to people, because they know people at Jagex don't like bots, and they want real people to be playing the game, and they want Jagex to do something about bots, the people who work there. I think the seniors, the very senior people, will put out that thing saying, yes, we want to get rid of bots, but they won't actually put in the resources to do it. Like I said, the tools they've got are not great from what I've heard. So they haven't put the tooling in to help do this, and the effort from the tools team to actually build out the support they need, because there's always something better to do. But at least a decrease in the. I mean, I'll give you an example. I went to head of player support at the time when Old School was young. We had Weath working with us, and I was like, I need more people to help combat bots. And he was like, why don't you just make the game so you can't bot it? I'm like, I see where we're going here. And that is the attitude from some people in the business. And it's kind of like plausible deniability, I guess. Yes, we want to get rid of them, but we're not actually going to give you anything to help you do it. Kind of approach.
So it's probably fair to say that the only time we're ever going to have like a real bot busting session is probably maybe if Jagex need to win back some goodwill of the player base, perhaps, because it just doesn't make sense for them to put resources into that, is what you're saying.
Well, they started increasing. I did hear, like I said, I chatted to somebody a couple of weeks ago who said they've increased the player support budget, and the player support includes anti-botting as well. So and that side.
But like, I think it's important to still reiterate that bots do get banned. It's just, how effective it is, right? It's always, I feel like that's the real issue at hand. And I think lately, these past few years, I think the biggest concern is like you said, Matt K, about visibility, right, of bots, is that there are some bots that are just so prolific, like if you see a 200 mil or 100 mil hunter character in the high scores, that's everything's like level 10 or something, and then that's the only skill, that just, I don't know, it just pisses players off, right? And it really offends players. I think obviously a step in the right direction, at least, if in terms of improving what they could do, is at least get rid of those prolific bots that just, it's an eyesore.
There should be like a cap on how far they can get, because it's because players are doing that content and they're like, that bot's got 3,000 kills at Fasoni. I've been here for 3 months and I've got 1,000. It's like, this is a joke. Like, how has it not been caught yet?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why people are like so annoyed about it.
Feeling of injustice, and that's such a strong feeling for so many people. That feeling of injustice.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's been the main thing that a lot of people are really, really like criticizing, is when you see those kind of, examples that are still present.
Yeah, absolutely. They should feel that way, because it's not right. It's not fair, and it needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, they do. I do see evidence of them taking care of them, but like, obviously, I feel like it should be improved to the point where I find it hard to see that,
Yeah.
But it's not that hard right now.
I think we probably have to accept and live with the fact that there's always going to be bots. But absolutely. Just some bots are more annoying than others, right? Like the ones that are farming the good raids and the good monsters, etc. And then the bots that have got 200 mil XP in a skill, and stuff like that, and high KC, like that stuff's just, it just rubs salt in the wound, It's just annoying for us players.
Bad for goodwill, Right.
Jagex need goodwill, if anything, right now.
Yeah, definitely. Right, boys, I think we've covered all the subjects. Should we wrap it up there?
Yes.
You expanded, actually,
Yeah, for quite a bit. Right, boys, let us know down in the comments. What was it, blockchain or survey? Let us know what your thoughts are. Also, if you've watched it this far into the video,
well done.
That's crazy, man. What should we say, Mint?
I would say, can I say something too?
Go for it.
People in chat. I would say hire Matt K back.
Yeah, type that.
There you go.
There you go. If you watch all the way in, hire Matt K back.
Matt K for CEO. Boom. It's done. Right, Matt.
Not sponsored.
Matt, before we go, where can the people find you? Where are you? Social media.
Well, I'm on Twitter. On Real Matt K on Twitter. I'm also on Twitch. I stream 3 times a week. On Mondays and Thursdays and Saturdays. Come hang out, and we talk about this sort of shit every week, so every day.
And hopefully you'll see him at Jagex HQ.
Oh yeah.
Are you guys going to Runefest?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
cool. Well, I'll see you at Runefest, because I'm going.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It'll be a pleasure. Yes, absolutely. It'll be a pleasure to see you in the flesh again.
Matt. It'd be nice to see you in the flesh again. Mint's not going
there as well, Mint, no. Let's see.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, I'll do a Discord live with Mint's face and
I mean, on a robot.
All right, boys. Thank you for watching Matt K. Matt K. Thank you very much for coming on, dude. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I've loved it. Thanks for having me on, guys.